Fox News alert now. House Democrats pushing for sweeping new legislation they say would strengthen our elections, but that Republicans are calling a power grab and the antithesis of unity. H.R. 1, as it's known, the For the People Act, would establish automatic voter registration nationwide, require states to allow same-day voter registration on Election Day, require paper ballots in all jurisdictions, expand vote by mail, and offer non-binding support for Washington, D.C. statehood. Let's get into it now on Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner. Here today, Emily Campagno, Town Hall editor and Fox News contributor Katie Pavlich, radio host and Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall, and joining us today for the very first time, civil rights attorney and Fox News contributor Leo Terrell. And a lot of people may know you, Leo, because you've been writing some pretty strong op-eds for FoxNews.com. Welcome to the program. Leslie.
Registering to vote doesn't force you to vote because, as we see from the numbers, a lot of people register don't show up. 2, if you look at the lawsuit, 67 out of 68 that were not brought, obviously, to the federal government, but were brought to the states. And what were the issues with the states? That there weren't paper ballots, that they were concerned about these voting machines. And this is one of the areas that addresses the cries from Republicans, and especially those in the party or even outside the party, who felt that this was a fraudulent election, even though there was no evidence of widespread voter fraud. So I think, quite frankly, this is, and to speak to power grab, look, let's be honest, whether a Democrat's in control or Republicans in control, that's why elections have consequences. The party in power is going to have some type of power grab. But this kind of puts everything on a uniform level, so quite frankly, it should address and alleviate the concerns of the voters out there, because everybody's been screaming paper ballots. This is one of the areas this legislation addresses.
Welcome back. President Biden says he believes the Senate impeachment trial of former President Trump has to happen, even if it affects his agenda. But he cautions that Democrats do not appear to have enough Republican votes to convict Trump in the Senate. Biden making the comments just as the impeachment article was being delivered to the Senate yesterday. But Republicans are slamming Democrats' renewed push to target Trump just days after they called for unity. Meanwhile, we learn that Democrat Senator Patrick Leahy will preside over the trial and not Chief Justice John Roberts. But it's still unclear whether there will be witnesses or how long the trial will last. Leslie, I'd like to start with you. If President Biden is already dooming this bid for conviction, and we know that it's just a numbers game, right, given the stated legislative intent of his administration at this point, then why are they moving forward with this?
Well, the Constitution. I mean, if you impeach a president in the House, that's one thing, and that's done. That's part A. Part B is this president removed from office? And this is where, as you know, Emily, even better than I, with your legal background, that this is a new precedent here. I mean, there is no precedent for this. It's a very gray area because Donald Trump is a private citizen. He's no longer a sitting president. However, does a political party not move forward with impeachment in the House because they know they don't have the votes in the Senate? Well, Andrew Jackson, Bill Clinton, Republicans knew they didn't have the votes. They pushed ahead. Democrats know they don't have the votes. I've said that before right here on Fox, just like President Biden is saying. But they have a constitutional responsibility to follow through.
A shocking new report shows President Biden benefited big time from anonymous donors, or so-called dark money. Jackie DeAngelis of Fox Business joins us now to give us the facts. Good to see you, Jackie.
Good to see you, Harris. Well, President Biden did benefit from record-breaking dark money. In fact, donations helping him with his election win, $145 million. In comparison, President Trump received $28.4 million, just about 17% of what Biden got, according to the Center for Responsive Politics. Now, what exactly is dark money? In politics, it refers to funds spent by political nonprofits or super PACs. Super PACs are independent, expenditure-only political committees. They can take in unlimited contributions from individuals, corporations, unions, and other groups without any legal limit on the donation size. And once it's all lumped together and going to the candidate, then you really don't know where it came from.
Leslie.
I have to say, I agree with most of what Leo said. Don't faint, Leo, my friend, here on the West Coast. Look, and I'm glad that he pointed out that Citizens United set the groundwork for this. This is a rotten system. I can't stand dark money, quite frankly, and both sides take advantage of it and will continue to as long as it's part of the system. The one with the most money doesn't always win. Donald Trump proved that in 2016. And there are certainly people who benefit from this, left or right, our current president on the left, and Mitch McConnell, whose one nation has actually had more dark money funneled into federal campaigns than any other. Like I said, it's rotten, it stinks, both sides use it and take advantage, and that's not good because of the influence that these individuals and corporations have possibly on these politicians rather than the people who elected them.
Welcome back. New questions over why President Biden's coronavirus-related travel restrictions are not getting the same criticism as President Trump's travel ban on China. Our own Peter Doocy challenging Press Secretary Jen Psaki about that yesterday.
And just one more about the announcement you made off the top about the travel restrictions. When President Trump was imposing travel restrictions in March, specifically on China, then candidate Biden called it xenophobic and fear-mongering. So now President Biden is putting travel restrictions on people coming in from other countries. What word do we use to describe that?
Well, I don't think that's quite a fair articulation. The president has been clear that he felt the Muslim ban was xenophobic. He overturned the Muslim ban. He also, though, has supported, and he himself, even before, or we did, I should say, even before he was inaugurated, steps, travel restrictions in order to keep the American people safe.
Leslie, what is your response to Katie's points?
Well, first of all, when I look at what is being responded to, it was when former President Trump was calling it the China virus. And in addition to that, it was just China. If you remember when the restrictions were imposed on China, at the same time, Italy, Iran, and South Korea were all surging. There were no restrictions on those countries, and quite frankly, the restrictions weren't even enforced. From personal experience, I came back from Mexico right before everybody stopped flying in March. And when I came in through LAX, I had to go through customs in the international terminal. There were flights from China, from Iran, from Italy, from South Korea. I asked the gentleman at customs, and I said, what is going on? I thought China was banned from coming in. He said, supposedly. And he goes, but if they're American citizens, we can't stop them. And I said, but everybody I'm looking at is holding Chinese passports. And he goes, the rules change 1 minute to the next. So I think part of the problem was, one nation, two, lack of enforcement, and three, using China virus as the rhetoric that surrounded that decision.
All right. In all fairness, I do want to bring up, and we have Leslie Marshall with us here, too. You know, you hear Leo Terrell talking about some of the comments that President Biden, then candidate, made on the trail. And I think you and I have been on the air when some of those things have been said, Leslie. So I want to give you, as our person on the virtual couch today, who can talk from a Democratic perspective, you know, how this kind of fits in. And I'll just give you an example. You remember it well. You're not black if you don't vote for me, something that he told a radio host at the time.
Yeah, my jaw dropped about that. I think you and I did talk about that on the air. Look, Joe Biden, like any other politician, whether running for president or any other office, makes promises, campaign promises, and 84 million people voted, especially a lot of minorities, Latinos and African Americans, for promises that he made. This is part of fulfilling those promises. To Leo's point, you got to just look at the numbers, and not just here in California, but throughout the country. Disproportionately affected by the COVID-19 virus, African Americans, Latinos, people of color, disproportionately affected physically, but also disproportionately affected financially. Housing, the housing markets, loans that are given for housing, businesses, small business loans, all disproportionately affected compared to currently white majority in this nation. And that is what President Biden promised to address, and that is what Susan Rice is speaking to right now. And sorry, if you just look at the numbers, whether it be in incarceration, whether it be in housing loans, business loans, or again, those people affected financially and physically by this virus, well, there is some systematic racism taking place when people of color are not being given the same opportunity.
So we've had two different perspectives.